Today we're cooking vegetarian.
Kale soup, avocado salad, and broccoli casserole.
As the Italians say, buon appetito! Hi, I'm Andy.
And I'm Jessie.
Today is Vegetarian Day at our house, and you're invited.
Hi, guys. Wow, what are we having?
Heather's whipping up some kale soup.
I love her cooking. It's vegetarian, right? No beef broth?
You know it. Did you know that kale has no cholesterol?
Yes.
How? Did you?
Of course they did. No vegetables have cholesterol, silly.
Oh.
And it's rich in vitamin K.
K, like kale. What's vitamin K for anyway?
It makes your blood clot normally.
Oh.
It's important, and Heather also gives us a great tip for how to cut kale, so you gotta watch for that. You'll be a pro kale cutter in no time.
A pro kale cutter? Heather, show us how it's done.
The first thing I'm going to do is add 3 chopped onions. Every good soup recipe starts with chopped onions. Now I will add the garlic. This is 6 cloves of chopped garlic, so it's got some heft to it. I'm going to let that just color a little bit. I just don't want that the garlic to burn, but it's beginning to get really aromatic. It smells really wonderful. Now I'm going to add the butternut squash. This is 1 small to medium sized butternut squash cubed. It's going to give this wonderful color and also a sweetness in the soup. And then 3 chopped red peppers. Give this a stir. This is going to be a gorgeous looking soup. Then I'm going to add 1.5 cups of vegetable broth. Of course, if you don't need it to be vegetarian, you can always add chicken broth if that's what you have in your pantry. By the way, I said soup. This is really more of a stew. It's only 1.5 cups of liquid, and it ends up being a beautiful bowl of vegetable stew. The butternut squash has to cook through. It's going to take about 10 minutes. You want a little bite to it because we still have about 5 minutes of cooking left. The next thing we're going to do is add the kale, and a lot of people will try to flatten it and go down one side and down the other. But if you just work with the kale, which wants to fold that way anyway, and you slice it right down there, there you go, end of the rib. For this stew, I just chopped it roughly. It ends up being 2-inch strips this length, maybe a 1/2 inch wide. And then, you know, if they look a little big, I just give it another rough chop. So, time to add this to the stew. I wanted about 6 cups of fresh kale. This is a rough measure. 6 cups is rough. And of course, everybody knows this is going to cook down by far. And then I have this beautiful sage. This is fresh sage. You can use dried sage also. But as I said before, this adds a really magical, almost haunting taste when it's combined with the kale. And we just want the kale to cook down. It'll take maybe about 5 minutes. So at this point, I think I'm going to put a lid on it and let it steam a little bit because I don't want to toss the squash too much because I don't want to turn the squash into mush. I think the kale is probably done. It's been cooking for about 3 to 5 minutes. Oh, it's gorgeous. At this point, I'm going to add beans. These are Roman beans. I'm going to mix these in, and basically they're cooked, so we're really just warming them at this point. And then I'm going to add these black olives. I'm going to put a lid on this and let the whole thing warm up so the beans get hot, and then we'll serve it. I think the soup is probably ready, except add a little bit of salt and pepper. I'll add just about a teaspoon and leave it to the diners to add more, but I'm going to add a lot of pepper because there's never too much pepper. Okay, I'm going to serve this. And you can see it's meant to be thick. And then to finish, I'm going to throw some Parmesan cheese on top. And I do this with pastas, I do this with soups, I do it with even salads. I'll take one last drizzle of olive oil and then one tiny little pinch of salt to go with the olive oil. This is my kale soup. I really need a better name than that. I will tell you that I've served this to my children and they have called it the best food they've ever eaten. So I think I might call it my kids' favorite dinner.
They're not going to want to miss this next recipe. Jane is cooking broccoli.
I love broccoli. Did you know that it has lots of vitamin C?
Not vitamin B, like a B for broccoli, like K for kale.
You remembered. It does have vitamin B, a little bit, but more C. It just has more vitamin C than kale.
Really? I bet it doesn't have any vitamin K.
It does.
Does everything have vitamin K?
No.
Well, like what?
Kale, spinach, collard greens, Swiss chard, turnip greens, mustard greens, Brussels sprouts, parsley, romaine lettuce, and broccoli. That's the top 10. Broccoli's last and kale's first.
How am I going to remember all of that?
Mostly all of them are super greeny and leafy.
Oh, well, what else does broccoli have?
Calcium.
Holy cow!
Indeed. Jane, take it away.
Take a little bit of butter, maybe about a teaspoon of butter, and spread it along the bottom and sides of the pan. And I like to use a folded piece of paper towel. Now I can set this aside. And what goes in the casserole is broccoli and a little bit of onion, and then we make a sauce. So I'm going to start with the broccoli first. This is just frozen broccoli. You could use fresh broccoli florets, or you can use the frozen broccoli. It's about 24 ounces or 1.5 pounds of frozen broccoli. And I'm just going to cut it into more bite-sized pieces. And then otherwise we'll just take the knife and roughly chop this. It doesn't have to be any specific size. And maybe that looks good. So now that we've got that all sort of roughly chopped, we're going to get a half of an onion. Don't need too much onion. And for this you want to cut it kind of fine because the casserole is not going to bake all that long in the oven. So we're going to make cuts that are close together. And we'll go ahead and keep those cuts close together there. And we've got a nice fine chop on that half of an onion. So into the broccoli, we're going to throw the onion. And that's it for the ingredients that go inside there. The next thing we're going to do is make the sauce. In here we've got a can of cream of celery soup. If you have another favorite, if you prefer cream of mushroom, that's fine, you can do that. And to that, to thin it out, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of whole milk. You could use skim milk if you wanted. With that. And to give it a little bit of zesty seasoning, we are going to use a little bit of Dijon mustard. You could also use brown mustard, something that's got a nice spicy taste to it. And that's about 1.5 teaspoons to a tablespoon to your taste. I like mustard, so I'll use a little bit more than some people would. And then just a little ground black pepper. So just those 4 things in there: the cream of celery soup, 1/2 cup of milk, a little bit of mustard, and a little bit of black pepper. And then we're just going to gently incorporate that together to make a sauce. All right. There we go. It's starting to blend up really nicely. So what we're going to do here is just take the sauce that we made and we're going to pour it over the broccoli and the onion. And then just kind of fold all these ingredients together. Super. So that is absolutely done. All we have to do now is put it into the baking dish that we prepared. You don't need to pack it down or anything, but I want to make sure it's sort of even. One of the wonderful things about casseroles, and I think what everybody likes, is when they start to bake and they get bubbly and they get crusty around the edges. I usually go for just a fine, dry breadcrumb. I wouldn't try anything seasoned because you've got a lot of seasonings in here. So maybe about 1/4 cup or a couple of tablespoons of that. Just sprinkle it over the top. and evenly distribute that. And that's going to give you a nice brown crust on the top. And then the last part is to just take a little bit more butter, maybe another teaspoon or so. And then we're just going to dot this on the top. Don't need to be fancy or fussy about the way it goes. It'll all melt up in the oven. And it's also going to add a little bit of flavor. There's nothing quite like butter to add a little bit of savory richness to a dish. And that is it. 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 minutes, and we're good to go. Wow. Just took our broccoli and cheese casserole out of the oven, and it is bubbling away. We can go ahead and plate a little bit of this. So there's your broccoli and cheese casserole all finished. It makes a really nice alternative to your green bean casserole, and I think you'll enjoy it very much.
What salad did you select for Stephanie to cook for us?
Avocado, beet, and orange.
Orange?
Yup, cara orange.
What are those?
Well, they're oranges that look like grapefruits inside, but taste like the juiciest oranges ever. And this medium-sized navel is sweet and low in acid. The flavor is more complex than most navel varieties and has been described as evoking notes of cherry, rose petal, orange, and blackberry.
Did you study?
Maybe. Are you impressed?
Maybe.
Cool. Wait till you see how much juice comes from one of these oranges.
Show us, Stephanie.
To make the dressing, we start with a little bit of vinegar. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 tablespoons in. The next thing we're going to use is olive oil. I really love infused olive oils. They really change the flavor of just about anything you make. So I'm going to go ahead and pour about 3 tablespoons of blood orange olive oil. Now I have already squeezed 1 cara orange juice, and I just want you to see how much juice comes from 1 orange. So we're going to put in about 1/3 of a cup of orange juice. Perfect. The next thing we're going to do is to add a little pinch of salt, and then we're going to grind a little bit of fresh ground pepper in there. Okay. Now we're going to whisk this in. Oh, I forgot the most important thing. We're going to grate the zest of the orange. Now, the zest of this orange is it's just so full of oils, and it has such a wonderful scent. Make sure you don't take any of the white part because that tends to be bitter. We're just going to use the orange part of the skin. So a very light grade. So now we're going to take this and we're just going to whisk it in. Voila, the dressing is done. Now what we're going to do is to take this dressing and we're going to put the beets in it. We've already roasted the beets. And what I'm going to do is to show you how easy it is to peel a beet after it's been roasted. All I'm doing is taking my thumb and pulling the skin off. It's so easy. You don't have to bother to peel it. Saves a lot of time. So we've got our beet nice and peeled, and now I'm just going to slice it. I'm going to take the beets and put them right into the bowl. And I already have some beets that I have cut up. We're going to let the beets just rest for a while. So now we're going to put together the salad. So I'm going to go ahead and put some nice greens on the plate. The next thing I'm going to add are some red onion. And then I'm going to put some of these wonderful cara oranges. Now, I don't know if you can see the color of the oranges, but they almost look like grapefruit. Put one in the middle. The next thing I'm going to do is to add the avocado. I'm just going to take my knife and slice the avocado in half. Take your knife, stick it right into the pit and pull the pit out. And it makes it just so much easier. To slice the avocado, I just take my knife and I make my slices in the avocado like this. And then I take my spoon and I just put it in and scoop out the avocado. And the slices are already done. And I can just put them on to make them beautiful. I'm going to take the beets and place them right on the salad. And the last final touch, I have taken some almonds, some sliced almonds, and roasted them. And these, because I like, we're having a sort of a sweet citrusy salad, I tossed them in with a little bit of honey. So now we're going to sprinkle some almonds on. It also gives the salad a nice little extra crunch. Because as we all know, texture is pretty important with food. You don't want to have something too mushy and you don't want to have something too crunchy. I like a little bit of everything. So now we have a beautiful, colorful, fresh spring salad, and it will wow all of your friends. There you go.
Bye-bye.
Bye.